Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Breakdown. I'm Allison Gill. I was going to have to take this weekend off because the whole entire MSW media staff is traveling for the GLAAD Awards. The Daily Beans podcast was nominated for a GLAAD Award, so we're all traveling. So please forgive this makeshift hotel room studio. I'm holding my microphone. I don't have headphones. We're not being very profesh this week, but there was something I wanted to talk to you about. Couldn't wait another week. Because it has to do with the release of the Epstein files. So, as you know, the Department of Justice has been caught red-handed withholding documents that implicate Trump in the Epstein files. But even more interesting is that these documents show Epstein and Trump discussed Epstein blackmailing his clients. Not his victims, but he also did that. And this particular victim, whose 3 interviews we just got show that as well, that her mother was blackmailed. But that he also talked about blackmailing his clients and talked about some dirt that he could possibly have on Donald Trump. And that interview happened with the FBI and this Epstein survivor just 3 days before Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. So that's very, very odd to me. And I want to talk about that today. And I want to show you the receipts there. But also what's interesting is that the DOJ has given us duplicate documents. These are duplicate documents from the Ghislaine Maxwell discovery, which Ghislaine Maxwell has and could have released at any time, or perhaps was threatening to release. Hence maybe that meeting with Todd Blanche. I'm not sure. But where are the originals? These are duplicates. These are the copies that Ghislaine Maxwell, these interviews, these 302s, are the copies that Ghislaine Maxwell got in discovery in her case. These are not the originals. So where are those originals? And by the way, you will remember, if you've been watching The Breakdown here on the Midas Touch for a while, I interviewed one of those tipsters in that same batch of tips that was circulated last year, the ones that, including the 302s we just finally got. And I interviewed one of those tipsters, and all of her interview materials and 302s about Donald Trump and his modeling agency and how he trafficked girls through his modeling agency, those 302s are still missing. And as you know, I talked to Annie Farmer here on The Breakdown. That's Maria Farmer's sister, right after it was realized that her report to the FBI back in 1996 was finally released by the DOJ. But her 302s were also missing. Could it be because those 302s weren't part of Ghislaine Maxwell discovery? We're only getting, the DOJ is only admitting to having these FBI 302 interviews. They're only admitting the ones that Ghislaine Maxwell has and aren't releasing the originals? That's very interesting. And why would that be? Why would you only be willing to release, once you've been caught red-handed, willing to release what Ghislaine Maxwell has? Because she has them. And now she's sitting in a low security prison without custody status and having her sex offender status waived and has a puppy and gets high profile visitors. So very, very interesting. And all of the timing of that is very interesting too. I'm going to show you all the receipts on today's episode of The Breakdown. All right, so by now, we all know about the accusations from this specific Epstein survivor that the DOJ hid from us. Back in January, Department of Justice released this spreadsheet summarizing tips they got called into the FBI tip line, both after the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, when they said, please call and give tips if you have information about being an Epstein survivor, and after Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest a year later. They did this, put that tip line out for both. And these were summaries of some of those tips. Then DOJ took that document down, which drew attention to it. The reason everybody has seen a picture of that is because the DOJ pulled it off their portal after they put it up. And everybody was like, what? Why? And then they put it back up. Not sure why. Now, a couple weeks ago, NPR reported that the DOJ withheld documents related to one of those tips. Here's the reporting from NPR. Quote, the Justice Department has withheld some Epstein files related to allegations that President Trump sexually abused a minor, an NPR investigation finds. It also removed some documents from the public database where accusations against Jeffrey Epstein also mention Trump. Some files have not been made public despite a law mandating their release. These include what appear to be more than 50 pages of FBI interviews, as well as notes from conversations with a woman who accused Trump of sexual abuse decades ago when she was a minor. NPR goes on to say, quote, NPR reviewed multiple sets of unique serial numbers appearing before and after the pages in question, stamped onto documents in the Epstein Files database, FBI case records, emails, and discovery document logs in the latest tranche of documents published at the end of January. NPR's investigation found dozens of pages that appear to be cataloged by the Justice Department, but not shared publicly. So, after NPR's reporting, the Department of Justice, which had said in January that it was done, we're done releasing the Epstein files, we're so done that we have a 15-day window to tell you the reasons why we've redacted and withheld stuff. We're going to do that too. That's how done we are. So they said they were finished. But then they said they're going to release more. And that there's over Wall Street Journal report, there's over 46,000 files in review right now. And this weekend, we got 3 of the missing FBI 302s. And a 302 is the name of the form that an FBI agent fills out when they do an interview, a formal interview with a person who is giving them a tip, right? Somebody they're interviewing. And we got 3 of the missing FBI 302s this weekend that were pointed out by NPR back on February 24th. Now, we've all seen these excerpts, but here's some notable excerpts. Prior to being asked any questions regarding the case, the agents asked whether they could audio record the interview. Blank advised she was not comfortable being recorded at that time. Blank requested agents explain to her the goal and parameters of the 4th interview. She indicated she was aware that because she was victimized several years prior, that the statute of limitation of any viable federal violation may have run. She asked agents, what's the point? The agents explained that all victims of crime should have the opportunity to tell their story. They wanted to provide her with that opportunity should she choose to accept. The agents also explained why they wished to keep the 4th interview focused on abuse endured at the hands of individuals associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Blank previously mentioned she had sexual contact with current U.S. President Donald Trump while she was a minor. She previously explained the contact was facilitated through her association with Epstein. Now, obviously, there are very salacious details in this interview, many of which have been gone over on multiple news outlets. So I don't think that we necessarily need to throw up a content warning and revisit that. But I wanted to draw your attention to something else that stood out to me in this particular newly released interview. Look at this. Quote, Epstein talked about blackmailing people in front of Blank. Blank was confident Trump knew Epstein blackmailed people because she heard Epstein and Trump talking about it. Blank stated she knew Trump had illegal building permits. She heard Trump talking about washing money through his casinos. Number 6 is Donald Trump's favorite number. Was not sure how she knew that, but she had heard it at one point. Blank stated that Epstein's blackmailing of her mother, quote, ruined my family. So here's this survivor telling the FBI in one of several interviews that Trump and Epstein talked about blackmail. She heard Trump and Epstein talk about blackmail and how Trump had, illegal building permits and was laundering money through his casinos. And she also told the FBI she, quote, got the feeling the relationship between Epstein and Trump included a certain amount of jealousy. She thought Trump appeared jealous of Epstein. So, Trump is jealous of Epstein, and Trump and Epstein talk about blackmailing clients in front of this Jane Doe, and how Epstein knows Trump has illegal building permits and launders money. But now I want you to check out the date of this initial interview from this Jane Doe. Look, August 7th, 2019. 3 days later, Epstein would be dead. 3 days after the publication of this interview, 3 days later after this interview about blackmail and Trump and Epstein. Now, this is probably just a coincidence, right? Right, just a wild coincidence. But I want you to check out the timeline of the discovery of these documents, at least last year, by Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and their cover-up memo closing the case against Epstein. You remember after phase one, the binders with all of the right-wing influencers and internet people came up to get their Epstein file, phase one. Then they realized there was nothing in there and everybody was really mad. And then MAGA got louder and louder and louder, right? And then they put 1,000 FBI agents and a bunch of DOJ people on reviewing the Epstein files. I've got FOIA requests out because they trained people how to find and flag Donald Trump's name in those files after they locked everybody in the building for 24 and 48-hour shifts. All this after they did that, after they shut down an active investigation into Epstein co-conspirators in the Southern District of New York and stole all the files and fired the prosecutors. Like after all that, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel quietly issued a memo closing out the whole thing on 4th of July weekend, on a holiday weekend, in the middle of the night, quietly shut it down, hoping no one would notice that they're shutting it down, that we didn't find anything. No investigations into any co-conspirators. The Epstein matter's closed. But look at what else that July 4th memo says. Quote, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover any evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. No evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals. Why would you say that? Why would you just say, we found no evidence of blackmail? Is it because blackmail was on your mind right then? Why was blackmail on your mind right then? Is it because that same month, July 2025, the FBI circulated this woman's allegation about blackmail? And right after that, Todd Blanche set up his meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell? Oh, and was it right around that month when you're setting up for this meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, you're circulating this woman's, her interview with the FBI that you got from Ghislaine Maxwell's discovery. It's a duplicate. It's not even your original. Where are the originals again? Why did you mention blackmail in your memo? And then go and talk to Ghislaine Maxwell really quick about it? From an interview you got from Ghislaine Maxwell's discovery about Trump and Epstein talking about blackmail? I'm sure it's all a coincidence. I'm sure it's all a coincidence that you're in a low security facility, Ghislaine Maxwell, and that your sex offender status was waived. Just coincidence, just weird coincidence. But when NPR asked DOJ why these documents were withheld, again, they said they may have accidentally been marked as duplicates. And that's what Marcy Wheeler pointed out. Look here, quote, in fact, these documents, every one of the documents released so far, are duplicates. As NPR focused in their original story on the withholding, what got released was the discovery shared with Ghislaine. Both the original release and these includes 3 Bates stamps, including the series 3501.045 to 003, here tied to discovery to Ghislaine, along with stamps from that production. The Ghislaine material is the definition of duplicate material because everything that went to her should have an original copy in the FBI case file. So where are the originals? Come to think of it, where are the 302s from the anonymous tipster I interviewed and told you about here on Midas Touch? Nearly 3 weeks before NPR reported on their missing 302s from this other victim. Where are those 302s? Or how about, like I said, Maria Farmer's 302s? Where are they? There are so many more missing documents. And all we have are duplicates of these 302s from Ghislaine Maxwell discovery. Again, where are the originals? Did Maxwell threaten to release these? And that's why DOJ has to release them? Because, you sit here and wonder, why would DOJ release these incriminating documents against Donald Trump? To get out ahead of somebody else releasing them? We know they're Maxwell's. And what about all the 302s that aren't part of Maxwell's case? Where are those? And why did Bondi find it necessary to mention theirs was no blackmail? We didn't see any blackmail. After circulating the allegations from Maxwell Discovery, right before Todd Blanche had to go and speak to her. A report, by the way, that was made 3 days before Epstein was found dead in Bill Barr's Bureau of Prisons. These are the questions we need to ask Pam Bondi. As we know, House Oversight Committee just voted 24-19, with 5 Republicans joining all the Democrats, to subpoena Pam Bondi. I don't think she's long for her job. Put up the head of lettuce next to her, because like Kristi Noem, I think she might be on her way out. As I've been saying, we're going to need a bigger bus. But these are the questions we should be asking when she comes in. It's time we made our own burn book for Pam Bondi. But again, I think with 5 Republicans voting to subpoena her, it seems like the Republican Party has permission to toss Pam Bondi out on her ass. We'll see. I think she's the next to go. But thanks, everyone, for putting up with my location, my haphazard microphone holding. I'm so sorry about this. I will be back in the studio next week, I promise. But please share this widely. We need to know where the originals are. Please call your reps, especially if you have a representative on House Oversight. Tell them you want to ask Pam Bondi, why are these just the duplicates? Why are we only getting the Ghislaine Maxwell documents? Did she threaten to release them if you didn't move her to a low security? Is she going to get a pardon? Why were Trump and Epstein talking about blackmail? Why did you bring it up when you closed this whole case right around the time that you were circulating this particular interview? Why was Epstein found dead in his cell 3 days after this interview happened about Epstein and Trump blackmail from this Jane Doe? These are the questions. So call your reps, tell them that's what you want to talk about when Bondi appears. And again, share this video widely. I want more people to know about this. Yes, the salacious details and accusations against Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein are horrific, and everyone needs to know about them. But I'm really curious about this blackmail piece. And why, apropos of nothing, Pam Bondi denied it right around the time they were reviewing this particular interview and didn't release it until now, until after Todd Blanche talked to Ghislaine Maxwell. Anyway, thank you so much. Again, apologize for the thing. I'll see you next week. Thanks to Midas for hosting this. And a big thanks to the whole Daily Beans podcast team. And congratulations on your GLAAD Award nomination. Just so humbled by that. And we'll see you all next week on The Breakdown.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.